The alien beauty tested my abilities in her secret chamber. By dawn, the entire galaxy was hunting what I left behind. I got dragged to an alien space station, sniffed by a stunning lizard queen, and, get this, my sweat became the galaxy's ultimate weapon. Want to know how a nobody like me turned cosmic hero? Hear this. If you enjoyed this story, please consider subscribing. Alex wasn't sure what he expected when he applied for an intergalactic travel visa, but it definitely wasn't this. Standing in the heart of Cosmos 9, a sprawling space station orbiting a distant star, he felt like a speck of dust in a galaxy that was far bigger and stranger than he'd ever imagined. The station buzzed with life. Tentacled merchants haggled over glowing crystals, insectoid diplomats scuttled past on spindly legs, and towering beings with skin like molten lava conversed in deep, rumbling tones. It was a place where every corner of the universe collided, and Alex, a simple earthling with a knack for fixing things, felt woefully out of place. He'd come here for one reason: to find work. Earth was overcrowded, jobs were scarce, and the promise of opportunities among the stars had been too tempting to resist. But first, he needed a visa, a pass that would allow him to travel and work freely across the galaxy. That meant passing the evaluation, a series of tests designed to ensure that applicants were fit for the rigors of intergalactic life. Alex had heard rumors about the tests. Some said they were straightforward: medical scans, psychological evaluations, maybe a basic skills assessment. Others whispered about bizarre trials involving alien technology or strange rituals. But as he was led down a dimly lit corridor by a silent, hooded attendant, Alex couldn't shake the feeling that his evaluation was going to be anything but ordinary. The attendant stopped abruptly in front of a heavy door, its surface etched with glowing symbols that pulsed in time with an unseen rhythm. With a soft hiss, the door slid open, revealing a chamber bathed in eerie purple light. The air inside was thick with strange, musky scents that made Alex's nose twitch. He hesitated, but the attendant gestured for him to enter. Swallowing his nerves, Alex stepped inside. The door sealed shut behind him with a finality that sent a shiver down his spine. The chamber was vast, its walls lined with sleek, metallic panels that reflected the purple glow. At the center stood a tall, imposing figure, an alien unlike any Alex had seen before. She was humanoid in shape, but her skin shimmered with iridescent scales, and her hair writhed like a mass of slender tentacles. Her eyes, large and almond-shaped, glowed with an intense golden hue. She wore a tight, dark bodysuit that accentuated her lithe form, and around her neck hung a pendant that pulsed with the same rhythm as the door's symbols. "Welcome, applicant," she said, her voice smooth and melodic, yet laced with an undercurrent of authority. "I am Zara, your examiner." Alex blinked, trying to process the sight before him. I am Alex, from Earth." Zara's lips curved into a faint smile. "Yes, I am aware. You are here to undergo the evaluation for your intergalactic visa. Specifically, the test of biological endurance." "Biological endurance?" Alex echoed, his stomach tightening. That didn't sound good. Zara stepped closer, her movements graceful and deliberate. "The galaxy is a diverse place, filled with environments and species that can be challenging for some. We must ensure that you can withstand the unique conditions you may encounter. My species, the Xenomorphians, are particularly attuned to biological markers. We can sense things others cannot." Alex nodded, though he wasn't sure he understood. "So what do I need to do?" Zara's smile widened, revealing a row of sharp, pearl-white teeth. "You will undergo 2 tests. The first is a test of endurance against certain stimuli. The second is a test of your ability to adapt to extreme conditions. If you pass both, you will be granted your visa. And if I don't?" Alex asked, though he wasn't sure he wanted to know the answer. Zara's eyes gleamed. "Then you will be reassessed." Alex swallowed hard. "All right, let's get started." Zara gestured to a spot in the center of the chamber, where a faint circle glowed on the metallic floor, its edges pulsing with a soft, unearthly light. "Stand here, please," she said, her voice calm, but carrying an edge that made Alex's pulse quicken. He stepped forward, his boots echoing faintly in the vast, sterile space. His heart thudded against his ribs, a steady drumbeat of nerves as he positioned himself within the circle. The purple light flared brighter, bathing him in its eerie glow and casting jagged shadows across the chamber's walls, shadows that seemed to twist and flicker like living things. The air was thick with a musky, alien scent that clung to his throat, a reminder of how far he was from Earth. He glanced at Zara, her golden eyes fixed on him, unreadable and intense, and felt a flicker of doubt. What have I gotten myself into? For the first test, Zara said, her tone shifting to a clinical precision that did little to ease his tension, you will be exposed to a gas that stimulates the nervous system. For most species, it's a mild irritant, itchy skin, a sting in the lungs. For others, it's overwhelming, a flood of sensation that breaks their resolve. Your task is simple. Endure it. Alex's brow furrowed, unease curling in his gut. Wait, is this safe? The question slipped out before he could stop it, his voice tighter than he'd meant. Zara tilted her head, her tentacle-like hair swaying in a slow, hypnotic rhythm, each strand catching the light in a cascade of iridescent glints. It's a standard procedure across the galaxy, she said, her eyes narrowing slightly, as if weighing his courage. If it becomes too much, raise your hand to signal surrender. But know this, stopping means failure. Failure wasn't an option. The visa was his ticket out of Earth's dead-end grind, his chance to carve a life among the stars. Alex clenched his fists, nails biting into his palms as he steeled himself. I'll be fine, he said, forcing confidence into his words, though his stomach churned with doubt. Zara gave a curt nod and tapped a sleek device strapped to her wrist, its surface gleaming with faint runes. A low hiss slithered through the chamber, like a serpent waking from slumber, as vents in the floor exhaled tendrils of pale blue gas. The mist coiled around Alex's ankles, climbing higher until it enveloped him in a swirling haze. Its scent hit him like a slap, sharp and acrid, with a metallic tang that stung his nostrils and made his eyes water. He coughed, the reflex automatic, and braced for a wave of pain or panic. But the discomfort stopped there, a faint prickle on his skin, like the burn of a strong cleaner he'd once spilled in his uncle's workshop. This is it, he thought, blinking through the haze, his breathing steadying. Iva Hendeld vers. Zara watched him with hawk-like focus, her golden eyes narrowing to slits as she lifted a small scanner from her belt. The device hummed, its screen flickering with data that made her lips purse. Interesting, she murmured, her voice laced with a curiosity that hadn't been there before. Your vitals are stable, pulse elevated but no distress. Most applicants are gasping or scratching at their skin by now. Your species must have a high tolerance. Alex managed a weak grin, relief flooding through him even as he fought to keep his composure. Guess humans are tougher than we look, he said, shrugging to mask the tremor in his hands. But Zara's expression darkened, a shadow of suspicion flickering across her features. She stepped closer, her boots clicking against the floor, and inhaled deeply, her nostrils flaring as if chasing a scent that eluded her. Or perhaps you're not what you seem, she said, her voice low and probing, each word heavy with doubt. No species is entirely immune to this gas, not even the most resilient. Are you truly human? The question hit him like a jolt, cutting through the fog of his relief. Of course I am, he said, his voice sharper than intended. What else would I be? His mind raced, grasping for an explanation, but all he could think of was his ordinary life, Earth, his job, his family. Nothing special, nothing alien. Zara's eyes bored into his, their golden glow sharp and unrelenting, as if she could peel back his skin to reveal some hidden truth. Her hair swayed faster now, a restless dance that mirrored her unease. Your scent is different, she said, her voice softening but no less intense. Too neutral, too clean. It's as if your body doesn't register the gas at all. That's not typical for your species, or any I've tested. A chill ran down Alex's spine, unrelated to the test. He felt exposed, as if her gaze had stripped him bare. "I don't know what to tell you," he said, his throat tight. "I'm just a regular guy from Earth. Maybe I've got weird lungs or something." She held his gaze for a long, uncomfortable moment, her hair slowing to a gentle undulation, as if she were weighing his words against some inner scale. Then she stepped back, her expression unreadable. "Very well," she said, her tone clipped. "We will proceed to the second test." The gas vanished with a faint whine, sucked back into the vents, leaving the air clear but heavy with lingering tension. Alex barely had time to catch his breath before the circle beneath him thrummed with a deep, resonant energy that vibrated through his bones. Without warning, a translucent barrier erupted around him, its walls shimmering with faint, crackling sparks. The temperature plummeted in an instant, the air turning so frigid that his breath crystallized into frosty clouds. A violent shiver tore through him, his teeth chattering as the cold sank into his skin like icy needles. "This is an energy cage," Zara said, her voice cutting through the barrier's hum, steady and detached once more. "To pass, you must escape. The walls are sub-zero. Touch them if you dare, but they'll sap your warmth in seconds." Most applicants solve a puzzle to deactivate it, but if you're resourceful, there may be another way. Alex hugged himself, the cold already numbing his fingertips and creeping up his arms. His mind raced, fighting the fog of discomfort as he scanned the cage. The walls were smooth, aglow with a soft, mocking light, their surfaces etched with faint, shifting patterns that offered no clear answers. He reached out, his fingers trembling, and brushed the wall. Pain flared, sharp and biting, like plunging his hand into a frozen void. He yanked it back, shaking out the sting, but the cold lingered, burrowing deeper with every second. "Focus," he told himself, his breath hitching as he fought to stay sharp. "There's a way out." His eyes darted across the cage, searching for a pattern, a seam, anything. The floor caught his attention. Beneath a thin layer of frost, faint symbols pulsed, their shapes elusive in the dim glow. A puzzle, maybe. He dropped to his knees, the chill biting through his pants, and traced a symbol with a shaking finger. The cage hummed louder, but held firm. His thoughts scrambled, the cold clouding his mind, and a bead of sweat formed on his brow, born of effort and desperation. It rolled down his cheek, a stark contrast to the freezing air, and fell to the floor, where it sizzled against the energy barrier. Zara, who had been observing Alex with the cool detachment of an examiner, suddenly froze. Her nostrils flared, drawing in a sharp, deliberate breath that seemed to pull the very air from the chamber. Her eyes, once a steady golden glow, widened and shifted to a deep, smoldering red, their light cutting through the violet haze like a warning flare. A tremor rippled through her, her iridescent scales glinting erratically, and her tentacle-like hair lashed in a chaotic dance, each strand curling and snapping as if stirred by a storm within her. Her hands clenched, fingers digging into her palms, and her chest rose with a single, shuddering inhale, as though the scent she'd caught had rewritten the rules of her existence. "This scent," she whispered, her voice so faint it barely carried over the chamber's hum, quivering with a raw, almost desperate awe. "It's impossible." Alex, lost in his own struggle, didn't notice the seismic shift in her demeanor. The energy cage held him captive, its icy walls sapping his strength with every passing second. The cold was merciless, sinking into his bones and stiffening his joints, his breath escaping in frosty clouds that hung in the air. Sweat beaded on his brow, a strange defiance against the freezing temperature, born of the frantic effort to stay focused. A single drop had already slid down his temple, hitting the cage's glowing floor with a faint sizzle that echoed in the silence. His mind churned, grasping for a solution. "This is energy," he thought, his thoughts jagged with exhaustion. Energy can be broken. A memory flickered, an old trick from his days tinkering in Earth scrapyards, where he'd once jolted a faulty power cell back to life with a crude spark. It was a desperate idea, but desperation was all he had left. His fingers, numb and clumsy, fumbled into his pocket and closed around his multi-tool, its worn metal a familiar comfort in this alien ordeal. He gripped it tightly, the weight grounding him, and flipped it open to reveal a tiny stun prod, its faint hum a whisper of hope. "Please, work." He pressed the prod against the cage's shimmering wall, his pulse hammering in his ears. A crackle erupted, sharp and electric, as arcs of light danced across the barrier. The cage wavered, its glow flickering like a candle in the wind, then shattered in a cascade of fading sparks. Alex stumbled forward, the chamber's warmth rushing over him like a lifeline. His legs trembled, and he rubbed his arms, trying to chase away the lingering chill that clung to his skin. "There, I did it," he panted, his voice hoarse but tinged with a flicker of pride. He glanced at Zara, expecting some sign of acknowledgement, a nod, a word, anything to mark a success. But she was elsewhere, her presence consumed by something he couldn't see. Zara stood motionless, her red eyes locked on the spot where his sweat had fallen. The tiny bead glistened under the chamber's eerie light, its faint, acrid tang still lingering where it had scorched the floor. Her breathing was uneven, each inhale a deliberate act, as if she were afraid the scent might vanish if she moved too quickly. Her scales shimmered with a nervous energy, and her hair slowed to a gentle sway, as though mirroring the gravity of her discovery. To her, that drop was no mere residue. It was a relic, a whisper of salvation for a people she'd been trained to serve. Her gaze held an intensity that seemed to pierce the fabric of the moment, seeing not just the sweat, but the weight of centuries carried within it. "What's wrong?" Alex asked, concern sharpening his voice as he caught Zara's sudden stillness, her red eyes locked on the faint gleam of his sweat on the floor, its sizzle a ghostly echo in the chamber's hum. "Did I mess up?" Zara stepped forward, her movements measured, like a hunter circling a fragile relic. Her jaw tightened, the violet light of the chamber casting stark angles across her face, her hair a restless cascade that betrayed the storm within. "That scent, it's X99, she said, her voice a taut whisper, quivering with awe and dread. "The compound my people have chased for 5 centuries. And you, it's in your sweat." Alex blinked, her words a jarring note in his reeling mind. "X99? What's that supposed to mean?" It sounded like a plot twist from a cheap holodrama, but the raw urgency in her tone anchored it in reality. Her eyes pulsed, red as a dying star. "X99 is a rare compound," she said, words tumbling out, barely restrained. "A cure for the gene decay that's been strangling my species for generations. We thought it was a myth, lost to time. But you," she jabbed a finger at him, steady despite her trembling voice. "You carry it. In your sweat." Alex stared, his thoughts a tangled storm. "So my sweat's medicine." He glanced at the glistening bead, its faint hiss surreal, the weight of her revelation pressing against his chest like a physical force. "Not just medicine," Zara said, closing the gap, her presence a quiet inferno. "It's our salvation. And you, Alex, have more X99 than any record we've found. It's in your blood, your lineage." Her gaze softened, curiosity flickering. "Did your ancestors work in strange environments?" His mind scrambled, clawing through memories. "My grandfather was a farmer," he said, hesitant, voice low. "Lived in the dirt, mixed his own brews, odd stuff, fermented in a shed with plants and muck. Could that matter?" Zara's eyes flared, a spark igniting. "Yes," she hissed, excitement cracking her calm. "Microbes, rare compounds, they could have sparked a mutation. Whatever it is, you're priceless to us." Her voice held a reverence that twisted Alex's gut, as if he'd become more than a man, a beacon for a dying race. Before he could speak, Zara knelt, swift and precise, beside the sweat's faint mark. From her belt, she drew a crystalline vial, its runes glowing like trapped embers. Her hands, steady despite the moment's weight, coaxed the bead into the vial, sealing it with a soft click. But as she stood, Her arm brushed a hidden panel on the wall, its surface seamless until a sharp beep pierced the silence, cold and final. Zara froze, her scales paling to a dull ash, her eyes wide with horror. "No, no, no," she whispered, panic splintering her voice. "What's wrong?" Alex asked, his gut twisting as her fear bled into him. She spun, clutching the vial like a live grenade. The sensor, it caught the X-99. Protocol flags rare, compounds to the station. This, her voice fell to a frantic hush. It'll reach every corner of the galaxy. A shrieking alarm erupted, its wail clawing at Alex's ears. Red lights slashed across the walls, shadows lunging like predators. Zara seized his arm, her grip fierce, nails biting skin. "We're leaving. Now." Alex didn't hesitate, adrenaline surging as he matched her stride. They charged for the door, its hiss drowned by the alarm as it slid open, revealing a squad of armored figures in the corridor. These weren't station drones. Lynx Dan Few, their polished gear flashing with faction insignias, moved with cold efficiency, blasters humming. "Hand over the human," one barked, his voice a metallic snarl through a visor, weapon raised with lethal intent. Zara slid in front of Alex, her stance coiled, eyes blazing. "He's mine," she snapped, her voice a low growl, sharp enough to cut. "Stand down." The mercenary's visor tilted, a scoff crackling through. "Yours? Try again." Before he could act, Zara snapped her wrist, a shimmering veil flaring around her like a second skin. A silvery mist burst forth, coiling through the air. The mercenaries lurched, gaping in confusion, swiping at nothing as if trapped in a glitch. One muttered orders to an invisible ally, his blaster dipping. "Run!" Zara yelled, yanking Alex's hand, her fingers a warm anchor as they plunged through the disoriented pack. They tore down the corridor, its steel walls a blur under flickering lights. Alex's lungs burned, boots slamming the deck as they wove past startled aliens, tentacled traders clutching goods, insectoids skittering aside. The mercenaries' shouts grew sharper, their haze fading, a hunting pack snapping at their heels. The station pulsed with chaos, the alarm scream stoking a frenzy that crackled through the air. Rounding a corner, Alex shot Zara a glance, her face etched with resolve. "I can sweat more if you need it," he gasped, a shaky grin masking the panic spiking his veins. "For your folks." Zara's eyes flicked to him, a purple flush on her cheeks, half annoyed, half amused. "Quiet and move," she barked, but a fleeting smirk betrayed her. They veered into a side passage, dodging a knot of smugglers, their eyes gleaming with greed, X-99's rumors spreading like a plague. Zara's grip tightened, her steps sure through the station's maze, a veteran of its underbelly. Desperate, she pulled Alex into a storage room, its air heavy with the sour tang of fermented alien brews. Crates of liquor loomed, their surfaces tacky, the floor gripping Alex's boots. Zara heaved a crate against the door, muscles taut, sealing their fragile haven. "This buys us time," she said, breathless, scanning the dim space, her hair a faint ripple in the stale light. Alex slumped against a wall, chest heaving, the sticky air coating his skin. "What's the plan?" he asked, swiping damp hair from his brow. "We can't hole up here." Zara paced, boots tracking through spilled liquor, her mind a storm behind her glowing eyes. "We need off this station," she said, voice grim. "But a blockade's likely forming. Every ship in the sector's after you. Smugglé, corps, gouvernement au X-99. Her tone softened, guilt dulling her gaze. "I caused this." Alex forced a smile, defiance against the dread. "Not your fault. You were doing your job." He paused, then added, "If my sweat can save your people, we'll figure it out." Zara halted, her eyes wide, gratitude flickering. "You'd help us?" she asked, voice a hushed hope, as if it might shatter. "Of course," Alex said, shrugging, the moment's weight grounding him. "But first we survive." A thud shook the door, a battering force. Zara snatched a liquor bottle, smashing it against the wall, its jagged neck glinting as she gripped it. But before the door buckled, a sharp scent rose. The liquor's tang fused with Alex's sweat, birthing a thick haze that pulsed in the air. The door burst open, 3 mercenaries stumbling in, blasters raised. They froze, eyes darting wildly, one grinning at a phantom, another batting at invisible flames. The third sank, humming a tuneless song, lost in delusion. "What's happening?" Alex whispered, a hushing his voice. Zara inhaled, realization sparking. "Your sweat and the liquor, it's a hallucinogen," she said, voice tinged with wonder. "They're trapped in visions." The mercenaries swayed, one waltzing with thin air. Zara grabbed Alex's hand, her touch steady. "Go before it fades." They slipped through the crates, back to the corridor, the docking bay close. Zara's silver ship gleamed ahead, a lone star in the chaos. But the bay swarmed with guards, their armor clanking, blasters primed. "We'll never break through," Alex said, dread pooling in his chest. Zara's jaw set, eyes narrowing. "No choice. Stay with me." She flared her veil again, mist billowing, sending the first guards reeling, muttering at unseen foes. But the throng was thick, blocking their path. As they neared the ship, a hulking figure loomed, a pirate captain, his ragged armor festooned with looted trinkets, face scarred, eyes like molten slag. He leveled a massive blaster, its hum a death knell. "Going somewhere," he rasped, baring jagged teeth, twirling a stolen ring on his finger. Zara tensed, her stance defiant, but the captain's crew closed in, weapons drawn, a noose of steel and malice. Alex's pulse roared, the air heavy with menace. "You're ours, human," the captain said, his voice a hungry growl, eyes fixed on Alex. "We'll wring every drop of X, 99 from you, willing or not." Alex's stomach churned, ring a blade in his mind. "Ring? Like, cut me open?" he asked, voice cracking, clinging to calm. The captain grinned, his face a grotesque mask. "Something like that." The pirate captain's sneer was a venomous promise, his crew tightening their circle, but Zara shattered the moment with a roar that rattled the docking bay's rusted beams. She sprang forward, claws flashing like comet tails, carving through the air with lethal grace. The pirates, clad in patched armor reeking of oil and plasma, scrambled in panic, their bravado replaced by wide-eyed confusion. Alex, pulse thundering, dove for a fallen blaster, its barrel scorched from use. His fingers shook, but he fired, the bolt crackling as it sent a pirate sprawling, his crude helmet clanging against the deck. The clash was a fevered blur, the bay alive with the screech of metal and the hiss of stray shots. Zara was a whirlwind, her movements precise yet feral, toppling foes with a strength that belied her lithe frame. Her scales shimmered only when they caught a stray spark, her focus absolute. Alex, fueled by raw instinct, squeezed off shots that found their mark, each hit a defiance of the fear knotting his gut. The pirates, their shouts drowned by the chaos, stumbled over crates, their patchwork gear no match for Zara's calculated strikes and Alex's desperate aim. As the ship's ramp beckoned, the captain lunged from the fray, his bulk a sudden wall of menace. He seized Alex, his grip of ice, and jammed a serrated blade against his throat. The edge grazed Alex's skin, a cold sting that stole his breath. "Enough!" the captain bellowed, his voice a gravelly rasp, like gears grinding in a ruined engine. "Move, and ease meat." Zara stopped dead, her claws poised, her gaze a furnace of restrained wrath. Her breath was steady, but her eyes burned with a vow to end this. "Release him," she said, her voice a quiet blade, slicing through the bay's tension. The captain's laugh was a guttural taunt, his fingers tapping the blaster at his hip. "He's my payday," he said, his scarred lip curling. "Worth more than your whole cursed kind." But a primal heat surged through Alex, his body answering the terror with a flood of damp warmth. The air thickened, carrying the faint, potent tang of X. 99, sharp and unmistakable. Zara's gaze snapped to him, her breath hitching, and a flicker of something raw crossed her face. Hope, fear, and a glimmer of sorrow. Her eyes shimmered, and a tear fell, its pearlescent glow like a fragment of a dying star. It struck Alex's arm, mingling with the sweat smeared by the captain's hold, and a gossamer mist bloomed, curling through the bay like a whispered secret. The pirates faltered, their breaths turning to wheezes. They clutched their chests, giggling at unseen shadows or muttering nonsense as their weapons slipped to the deck. One swayed, transfixed by a crate as if it held a lost treasure, while others sank, limbs heavy with delirium. The captain, still holding Alex, squinted, his voice faltering. "What trickery is this?" Zara stepped closer, her tears tracing silent paths, her voice unshaken. "Your greed ends here. Let him go." The captain's grip wavered, his body tilting like a storm-tossed ship. Alex felt the blade slacken and acted, slamming his elbow into the captain's ribs with a force born of desperation. The man grunted, folding over, and Alex broke free, the blade skittering across the deck like a discarded threat. Zara caught him, her hands steadying his stumble, her touch a quiet reassurance. "You're whole?" she asked, her voice urgent, her fingers brushing the faint cut on his neck, her eyes searching for harm. Alex nodded, the world still spinning, the bay littered with dreaming pirates. "What was that?" he asked, his voice rough, marveling at the chaos they'd wrought. Zara's lips twitched, a tear-streaked smile softening her edges. "Our union," she said, her tone woven with awe. "Your essence and my grief forged a silent venom, stripping the air of their poisons. They'll stir, but not yet." Alex let out a shaky laugh, his fear unraveling. "So we're a galactic knockout team," he said, his grin crooked, the weight of their victory sinking in. Zara's eyes danced, a golden warmth breaking through. "A matched pair," she said, her voice carrying a quiet thrill. They darted aboard the ship, the ramp sealing with a thud that muffled the station's echoes. Zara's hands flew across the controls, the craft purring as it tore free from Cosmos. 9. The station shrinking to a faint glow in the starlit void. Alex slumped into his seat, a wild elation replacing his dread. He'd been a nobody, chasing a visa in a galaxy too big for him. But now he was more. A spark for a species revival, and the ally of a woman who'd rewritten his fate. Zara set the autopilot, the cabin's dim light framing her in a soft corona. She turned, her usual steel softened by a rare openness. "Alex," she said, her voice heavy with gratitude, "you've given my kin a dawn we thought lost forever." He waved it off, his grin easy despite the bruises. "Didn't plan on being a cure factory," he said, "but I'm glad it's worth something." She closed the distance, her hand settling on his shoulder, her touch a steady pulse. "It's beyond that," she said, her voice low, intimate. "I've judged countless souls, their hopes and flaws laid bare. You woke something in me, a fire I didn't know I carried." His chest tightened, her words a spark in the quiet. "What's that?" he asked, leaning closer, his tone teasing but soft. Her cheeks bloomed purple, a shy defiance in her gaze. "Your scent," she said, then smirked, "and the fool who wears it. Both are irreplaceable." Alex laughed, the sound of release bright and unguarded. "Then let's make it a deal," he said, eyes glinting. "I'll churn out the magic sauce. You keep the claws sharp. Half the galaxy's riches, split down the middle." Zara's brow arched, her laugh a rare, clear note that warmed the cabin. "A merchant's bargain?" she asked, tilting her head, her hair a soft cascade in the starlight. "Why stop there?" Alex said, his voice dropping, warm and sure. "Could be more, partners in crime, maybe a few cosmic adventures." Her smile lingered, a vow in its curve. "I'd wager on that," she said, her hand finding his, their fingers lacing with quiet certainty. The ship sailed through the cosmos, a lone thread in the infinite weave. Alex and Zara stood as one, their path uncharted but alive with potential. X-99's lure would draw hunters again, but together, They were a force no galaxy could break. 6 months later, Alex stood on the bridge of the Sweat Equity, his empire's flagship, its sleek lines a monument to their triumph. He was the head of a pharmaceutical dynasty, X99, its beating heart, a far cry from the drifter he'd been. Zara, his shadow and spark, stood beside him, her presence a steady hum, her hand brushing his with a warmth that still quickened his pulse. A holographic ad blazed across the screen, its voice slick with promise. Unveil, oh, the human, the galaxy's rarest elixir, born of human fire. 1,000,000 credits a vial. The vial spun, its glow a captured nebula, and Alex chuckled, shaking his head at the madness. Who'd bet a fortune on my sweat? He said, his grin half disbelieving, half proud. Zara leaned in, her breath a tease against his ear. I would, she murmured, her voice a playful vow. From the first trace. Alex turned, her gaze anchoring him, his heart full. Good thing you get the VIP pass, he said, his tone soft, carrying the weight of their shared stars. Her smile was a beacon, fierce and true. Our luck, then, she said, her fingers tightening in his. And as the stars streaked by, Alex knew that his life would never be ordinary again. But that was just fine with him.